Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this year's Hurricane Preparedness webinar for businesses. I'm Kay Tracy, the Director of the Charlotte County Economic Development Office, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Your participation demonstrates a shared commitment in keeping Charlotte County businesses and the community strong, prepared and resilient for in the face of any storm. I'd like to especially thank our partners from the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce, the Punta Gorda Chamber of Commerce, and the Charlotte County Chamber of Commerce for their ongoing collaboration. I'd like to also take a moment to recognize our staff that work diligently behind the scenes in organizing today's program. Their efforts ensure that we are able to bring you timely, high quality information to help you plan and protect your operations. That's Christy Sisler and Maria Bastola. Thank you. Going back, the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce, you see on your screen, that's Doug Izzo. Justin Brand is representing today the Punta Gorda Chamber of Commerce. And then also we have Bob White, who's not with us today, but I do want to mention him because he also reached out to bring his business community from the chamber, the Charlotte County Chamber of Commerce. So welcome all. Just a quick note on logistics. We're using Microsoft Teams today for this event, and if you're not familiar with Teams or you're new to it, you'll find the chat feature on the right side of your screen. Please use it to post any questions throughout the session. We'll address them during the Q&A portion at the end of all the talks. So just so you know, we'll be sorting through those questions and we'll get to them at the very end. This session will also be recorded and will be made available on our website at cleared4takeoff.com. So that you can revisit and you can also share it with your colleagues. So with that, I want to thank again Doug, our co-host, Doug Izzo. I'm going to do a little bio on Doug just to let you know who he is. He represents the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce, the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce is a vital connector and advocate for our local business community, dedicated to promoting economic resilience and growth. Under the leadership of Executive Director Doug Izzo, the Chamber works year-round to support businesses through both opportunities and challenges, including hurricane preparedness and recovery. Next, I wanted to introduce Justin Brand. Justin is representing the Punta Gorda Chamber of Commerce, which is a dynamic organization also dedicated to promoting the growth and prosperity of local businesses while enhancing the quality of life in the Punta Gorda community. With a strong network of members, the Chamber serves as a vital connector, advocate, and resource for the Punta Gorda area. So welcome all. And with that, I will hand it over to Doug for his first introduction. Oh, I'm sorry, Justin. Wait, who am I introducing, Christy?
Okay, Justin is going to kick us off by introducing Dorian.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that, folks.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Kay and Christy, for putting this together today to bring the business community of Charlotte County together. I have the opportunity to introduce Dorian, who is the Regional Director of the Florida Small Business Development Center at FGCU. He leads a department of 20 individuals who provide technical assistance to small businesses all across the 5-county region of Southwest Florida, including Charlotte, Lee, Collier, Hendry, and Glades.
Hey, everyone. Do I share my screen?
I have your slides.
Oh,
right
okay.
here, Dorian. So we're going to kick off with your slides. Just let me know when you want it to change.
Sweet.
Right here. Can you see that?
Yeah, but that one's not me. Mine
Oh.
has a picture of FGCU.
I'm so sorry. 1 second.
But I could do this one too.
No, I do apologize.
Oh, you got it. Go down a little. I saw it. It was like around 15, maybe. Number 15.
Here we go.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. And you could go to the next slide. Hey, everyone. I'm Dorian Zviedevich. I'm the regional director at the SBDC. I always like to tell people, just in case they don't know about the SBDC, who we are. We're federally funded, so we're actually funded by the Small Business Administration, and we provide no-cost consulting assistance to our small business community. We're also here in the state of Florida. We have a great partnership with our state where we're listed in state statute as Florida's principal provider of business assistance, and we also get some investment from the state of Florida as well. I like to show the map as well because although we're in the Southwest territory or Southwest Florida area, if you ever move or if you have business owners or friends or family that own businesses in any other part of Florida, there is an SBDC. There is a small business development center there to help them as well. Next slide, please. And just to recap, for our region. So everything in Southwest Florida includes the 5-county area. We have about 20 people on our staff, but really 15 business consultants. And actually, I believe last October, we just opened a location in Punta Gorda. So we're actively growing and actively wanting to be super close to our small business community. Next slide, please. And then the main thing that we do, I like to say that the Small Business Development Center is the small business outreach arm of the university. We're housed here with FGCU in the Lucker College of Business. And the 3 main things we do is consulting, training, and outreach. Next slide. And consulting is ultimately our bread and butter. So this is anytime a business owner needs help, whether it's in blue sky days or during a disaster, we can help with marketing, capital access, international trade. I like to share this slide just to tell everybody that, hey, we're here year round for you. Next slide. And then training, we often have on our website multiple workshops, webinars and workshops each year on various topics. So now since it's hurricane season, we have like a 1-hour business continuity preparation workshop. You could find all of this online, but I like to show examples of other ones in case you need us. Next slide. And then disaster recovery. So this map is actually from Hurricane Ian, but I like giving people stories. A cool thing about our Florida SBDC network is that RV that we have. We call it a mobile assistance center. We have 2 in the state of Florida, and we also have 2 small ones. Essentially, when a hurricane hits, the SBDC business consultants, we're here actively in the community. You work with us, we work side by side with the SBA, with the federal government, and with FEMA. So we're here to help you throughout the year, but also immediately after a disaster in those business recovery centers. On this map I just showed from Hurricane Ian, where we were physically located, and our office actually drove around with the SBA, making recommendations and showing them, hey, let's open up a disaster recovery center here, or let's consider this location. So that's a big aspect of what we do during a disaster. Next slide. And then I showed ready.gov, but if we could go to the next slide. So one website I highly recommend is ready.gov/business. So this is something provided by the federal government. And for small businesses, it has business toolkits, which essentially it will cover different disasters. Hey, is your area prone to flooding or getting tornadoes or hurricanes? And it will have specific toolkits to help you craft whatever plan you may need to prepare for a disaster. But it also has business plans. So when I say business plan, I don't mean your traditional business plan that you would show to a bank. I really mean, do you have a document that says, okay, here are all of our insurance policies, all of our insurance contacts, here are the policy numbers, here are the terms and conditions of them. Do you know what to do if a hurricane comes and your server's wiped out, right? So it covers a lot of these different functional areas of your business, and all of these resources are free. And then training and exercises are really cool too, because they give you little online blurbs on, hey, like examples that you would go, oh, I haven't thought of that, something like this. Next slide. And then loan programs. So after a disaster hits, or when a disaster hits, this is where the SBDC comes in and also works with the state of Florida and the federal government, the SBA. And there are three main loan programs that I like to tell people about before a disaster. So first is Florida Commerce's Florida Small Business Emergency Bridge Loan. So this bridge loan was actually started after 1992, after Hurricane Andrew. And I showed you guys the example, the eligibility requirements. Of course, the month and day depends on whenever the disaster hits. But I like to show the requirements for everybody before a disaster so you know, hey, can I qualify or not? I almost always recommend this loan program to small businesses after a disaster hits because it's 0% interest for up to 1 year. So the whole purpose of this loan is it's the state of Florida fronting you some money quickly so that you can still pay the bills that you have and you could still put food on your employee's table, for example, while you wait for your insurance to give you your money, or while you wait for the federal government to give you their, the gold standard of disaster loans. So I almost always recommend this to every business owner because it's a wonderful program and interest-free is always good, right? But this program, I warn people, it's specifically made to be that bridge loan, right? It's not a long-term loan. It's strictly the state going, we'll front you the money so you could pay us back once you get the bigger funds. And then if we could go to the next slide. And then the two other loans, so I call these the gold standards of disaster loans. So generally, if a hurricane hits, more than likely you would apply for that bridge loan that I mentioned. The state would give you money relatively quickly. And then at the same time, you would apply for these federal loans. So this SBA physical disaster loan, these are wonderful low interest loans. So there's no free money out there, but the federal government, when I say low interest, I mean something like 4%, 3%, maybe 3.75, something like this. It depends on the market, of course. But this loan, if you have any physical damage, your roof, your windows are knocked out, furniture is damaged, cars are flooded, the federal government basically gives you this low interest loan that you can pay over 30 years. Realistically, nobody else, no bank, no commercial entity does something like this. So it's really beneficial for small businesses to consider applying for this physical disaster loan because it's really the federal government helping you out a lot with this. And if we could go to the next slide. And then the federal government also has, so this is these are real pictures I took during Hurricane Ian, and it was a cute pelican. But the EIDL loan, the economic injury disaster loan, this is unlike that physical disaster loan, which covers actual items. This covers lost revenue. So I actually use this example. I'm from Pensacola, Florida, and a couple years ago, they were building a new bridge. And one of the construction barges during a hurricane knocked into the bridge and the bridge was broken. It was damaged for over a year. So it turned a 20-minute commute from downtown Pensacola to Pensacola Beach into an hour and 30-minute commute because you basically had to drive north around the bay completely and then back south using another bridge. So the economic injury disaster loan, or as we call it, EIDL, this is basically a loan that those restaurants and bars on Pensacola Beach, they use this loan because they told the federal government, hey, we're not making nearly as much revenue because people don't want to drive, when a commute that's an hour and a half or more when it used to be 20 minutes. So this is a great program of that gold standard with the SBA as well. And then I'll just throw this fun fact. You can apply for all three of these loans. You can get denied for one of them, but not the other two. And you could apply for all three and choose to only get one or two of the loans. So all three of these loans are very beneficial and very flexible for the small business owner. Next slide. And just to recap, because I know I talk a lot, when a disaster strikes, so before a disaster strikes, you definitely want to go on ready.gov/business. definitely go to the SBDC workshops and webinars, or meet with our business consultants throughout the year. But after a disaster strikes, you definitely want to connect with the SBA in those business recovery centers, or with your SBDC. We'll always point you to the right direction, because we'll help you with the paperwork for the physical disaster, EIDL, and the emergency bridge loan. So we're here all year round.
All right,
Next
awesome.
slide. I think that's it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Dorian, for sharing that. We're going to go back to Kay here for a moment. She's going to introduce Patrick Fuller with Charlotte County Emergency Management. And let me get slides up here.
Thanks so much, Dorian. Appreciate everything that you had to share with us today. It was very, very informative and so critical to all of our local businesses, small businesses that are in our community during that time of need. Dorian has really, and his team has really stepped up to the plate and did everything in his, or does everything in his power to make it happen for us, so that we can get as much information out to our business community as possible, and as quickly as possible. And not only just for the businesses, but also for the business community's employees as well. So thank you so much for what you've done in the past and what you're doing today. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next up is Patrick Fuller. He is our esteemed emergency management director. We appreciate everything that Patrick and his team does for our community on all levels. And I will let you take it away, Patrick.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you, team. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone today. Next slide, please. I think we can all recognize that the cornerstone to business preparedness really is the individual and household preparedness of your staff. So before I jump into how that looks, just to give you a heads up on what the season ahead looks like, surprise, surprise, the experts out there in Colorado and all the other meteorological services, to include the National Hurricane Center, are indicating an above average year. For everyone's perspective, an average year is usually around 14.5 named storms. And this year they're indicating above average in the neighborhood of around 17, with 8 or 9, depending on who you look to, becoming hurricanes. If you look at that graphic up in the top right corner of the previous slide, they're looking at hotspots being the entire southeast coast. And then, for us, August through October are certainly the months of the most concern. I really want this to be sort of your last look at what the season ahead lies for us, because really it just takes that one storm. I know it's a message that you hear probably every year, but I hope everyone takes it to heart that regardless of the activity, we really always need to prepare as if we will be impacted, and certainly hope that we're not. But next slide, please. If you look over the last 10 years, we've had above average years, and some of those well above average. In fact, the top 3 of the top 5 most active years on record have occurred within our last 5 years. So storms aren't stopping. We should just expect that there's a potential in any given year, and that we need to prepare ourselves, our businesses, and our community as a whole for the potential for tropical weather, and hope that we aren't impacted. So next slide. I'll do this rather quickly. I've been averaging about 55 minutes for these presentations this year, and I know this is not scheduled for that long, so I'll be very quick. For this year, I'm kind of going over the hazards that are associated with tropical weather. Not that we actually need much of a reminder. We've gone through a series of storms the last several years that have brought some combination of these hazards, but luckily we haven't seen all 3 in an extreme version for any one given storm. Last year with Helene and Milton was the first time in over 100 years that Charlotte County has experienced appreciable storm surge. And what we experienced last year when the final report was done after Milton was about 10 feet at Minnesota Key at its peak height of storm surge. And then within the harbor, a peak height measurements of around 5 to 8 feet. That's not universal. It doesn't mean that every portion of our red zone received those levels of storm surge, but those were the peak measurements that we received. And in reality, that was less than what the forecast indicated the worst case scenario was. And in fact, for Hurricane Ian, had that storm made landfall further north, we would have seen values potentially higher than what we saw. So Milton and Helene were moderate storm surge events, and I always focus on storm surge pretty heavily because that's where the majority of lives are lost when it comes to direct impacts from storms. Next slide. The other hazard that we haven't necessarily seen widespread across Charlotte County is flooding rainfall. Areas to our north in Northport and DeSoto County certainly did during Ian, and we've had pockets of incredibly high rainfall amounts. But I want everybody to really realize that the widespread heavy rainfall in the 15, 20, 25, 30 range, that hasn't happened here in Charlotte County, and something that a very large storm with a large amount of precipitation moving very slowly could bring the potential for heavy rainfall over large portions of our community. If you couple that with storm surge, you're talking about much more inundation throughout our community. And let's hope we don't see that, but that is a potential possibility from tropical weather. Next slide. And that last hazard that I think most of us have experienced in one way, shape, or form, whether that was from Hurricane Ian or if you've been here long enough, Hurricane Charlie in 2004, damaging wind. And that could come both from the incredibly high winds that are associated with the eye wall and the rotation of a storm, as well as the potential for tornadoes. And tornadoes, just for everyone's knowledge, they can happen well in advance of a storm when the outer bands of a storm are making impact with the land. Last year was a great example, not for us locally, but directly across the state in St. Lucie County. Bands associated with Hurricane Milton created several storms or several tornadoes, at least one of which was an EF3, which is incredibly intense tornado, and unfortunately people lost their lives. So both the heavy damaging wind that are associated with the storm itself and its rotation, but there's always the potential for tornadoes as well. Next slide. So I went over those hazards rather quickly. I go into much more detail when I'm going out to civic organizations and churches and the like, but for time's sake, I wanted to go through that rather quickly. But for today's focus, this is really on how do your employees of your business, how do they get prepared? How do they ensure that their homes are prepared, their families are prepared to make it through hurricane season? And really it all starts with building that culture of preparedness throughout our community. My hope and my goal since coming to Charlotte County has always been that we build this culture of preparedness. And I think whether we like it or not, many people have embraced this because they've had no other choice. We've experienced, unfortunately, more than our fair share of storms, and I wish I could say that we aren't due for a while, but that's just not how it works. So it is incumbent upon all of us to embrace preparedness, and it's done through basically a 4-step process. First and foremost, they need to understand their risk, which means they need to understand their risk, knowing their evacuation zone. Also knowing that there's a distinct difference between a flood zone and an evacuation zone. Our flood zones are what FEMA has determined through modeling and mapping to determine what areas of the country can receive flooding and what their percentage chance is, and essentially tells you whether you have to maintain flood insurance or not. An evacuation zone or hurricane or storm surge evacuation zone, as we sometimes call it, that is how we express the risk and how we notify individuals whether they're being evacuated due to forecasts we receive from the National Hurricane Center. Unfortunately, if you live in Charlotte County and probably if you live anywhere in Southwest Florida, you live within some hurricane evacuation zone. That's due to our low elevation, the shallowness of the Gulf of Mexico, the contours of our coastline. All of those factors come into play, and essentially everywhere where people live could potentially receive storm surge under certain conditions. So knowing where your home is, where you live, what evacuation zone you're in, that is the first step in understanding your risk. Secondly is knowing your home. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew devastated southern Miami-Dade County. And if you recall back to then, you saw many homes stick-built that were wiped from their foundations. Because of the lessons learned from Hurricane Andrew in 1992, and then another system that went through the state that winter, the Florida Building Code was enhanced drastically in 1995. So much so to the point that now we have the strongest building code within the country, most would say at least, especially for wind events. When you talk about homes built after 1995 and then to any other building code, the enhancement since then, they're incredibly resilient against wind events. Doesn't mean that they are not going to receive some level of damage, whether that's soffit or roof shingles or roof decking. But you're not going to see as long as it's built to the appropriate building code, not going to see the utter failure, catastrophic failure that you saw from Hurricane Andrew, where homes were completely demolished. Because of that, residents are able to hide from wind within their homes if they're built to modern building code. Understanding what level of building code your home is built to is incredibly important, and that will help inform their decisions when we call for evacuations. Most of our evacuations are due to the threat of storm surge, but for those individuals who were built in homes built prior to 1995 or haven't been mitigated against wind, or individuals that live in mobile or manufactured homes because they are built to a different standard, not our Florida building code. So understanding your risk by knowing your zone and knowing your home is that first step. And the second step is building a plan. And what the first and foremost thing that needs to be explained in a disaster plan for the individual and household level is where you're going to go if you have to evacuate. The first option should never be our shelters. Shelters should always be looked at as a last resort. Individuals will be much more comfortable. They'll be much more easier to get to if they can find a friend or family member's home outside of an evacuated area. It doesn't make sense to go to a friend's house that is still within an evacuated area. But we always encourage our residents to find as part of their evacuation plan, a friend or family member's home, even a hotel if they can find availability outside of an evacuated area. But also we stress that they can go tens of miles, not hundreds. It's not necessary to drive all the way to Michigan or Tennessee or even Orlando. You can remove yourself from the most deadly portion of a hurricane, the storm surge, by going tens of miles, not hundreds. This prevents our residents from getting on the roadways, putting themselves at the risk of being in the gridlock of many people trying to evacuate north, struggling to find resources like gasoline or hotel rooms or shelters. They can stay tens of miles away and get away from the most hazardous parts of a hurricane. Also, those things addressed in their plan should be what they're bringing with them, what important documents they need to have. Do they have individuals in their house, such as young children or elderly, that require special supplies? Those things should all be addressed in their plan, how they're going to communicate with family members outside the area so they can ensure that they're safe and sound. All those things can be addressed within a disaster plan. We have in Charlotte County, the Charlotte County Disaster Guides. They are available at all of our libraries, and within them are far more details than I'm going to give you today on how to prepare, what things you need to have as part of your kits, and what the hazards are that we are vulnerable here to in Charlotte County. But also included in that disaster guide is a template for a start for a disaster plan, so that they can document insurance policy numbers, important phone numbers, what locations they plan to evacuate to. So if nothing else you take away from today, please encourage your employees, yourselves, go to our libraries, get yourself a Charlotte County Disaster Guide, and it'll have all the information you need. And you can always reach back to us in emergency management for further questions. That third step is preparing yourself by building disaster kits. We used to say that 72 hours worth of supplies was enough, and those days are gone, unfortunately. There's a few reasons for that. We now ask our residents to maintain 5 to 7 days worth of supplies. Much of that has to do with the frequency of major disasters that we're seeing not only in Florida, but nationwide. Every time there's an additional disaster, there's a competition for resources. When Hurricane Ian impacted us in 2022, we were the only disaster in town. It was Southwest Florida was the sole focus of FEMA. It was the sole focus of the state of Florida, and we were first in line for resources. That may not be the case. And as example, last year was Hurricane Milton happened only 10 days after Helene, and many resources from Hurricane Helene were still engaged both in the Big Bend of Florida, but also north into the Carolinas. Being able to be self-sufficient for 5 to 7 days is just prudent, because we're going to have to be competing for resources both from the public sector, the government, but also, as you know, your supply chain may be impacted locally. So it is just the right thing to do. Those disaster kits should include a number of items. We have a very comprehensive list in that disaster guide, but it's all those things that if you've lived in Florida for any amount of time, you probably know already. Non-perishable food for 5 to 7 days, first aid kits, flashlights, radios that are battery powered or crank powered, your medication that you may need for an extended amount of time. All those things, there's a very exhaustive list within the guide that you can use as an example, but ready.gov, as was provided in the last presentation, has another list. There's a lot of lists out there, but prepare now. Unfortunately, there is no sales tax holiday this year that was granted by the legislature and the governor, but that shouldn't stop anybody taking small bites of the apple. Build this kit over time, but ensure that you have your kits in place come the height of hurricane season in August is the right thing to do for our individuals and households. Lastly is the staying informed piece. This is done in several ways, but first and foremost, I always like to highlight Alert Charlotte. That's our emergency notification system, and for us, it is our quickest way to let individuals know that they're in harm's way. If people log into alertcharlotte.com and register, the bare minimum that I'm asking for is they put their address and name in there, and that lets us know that when we call for evacuations and I draw a circle on a map, it will capture that address and it will send an email, a text message, or a phone call, one of the above, two of the above, all the above, and let those individuals who registered at that address know that they're in an area that could potentially receive life-threatening conditions and that they need to evacuate. I can't recommend Alert Charlotte enough. I wish we could make it a requirement that everybody is required to sign up. That's just not how it works. But it's an amazing program. All 67 counties have access to a version of this. So if they live outside of Charlotte County, they have a very similar program in Sarasota, DeSoto, Lee County, and so forth and so on. So Alert Charlotte, very important. Also, our county social media accounts. When we are in the midst of a disaster activation in the days leading up to an event and during and after, our social media accounts and our websites for the county are pushing out vetted, accurate, timely information. So to avoid the rumor mill, please encourage your staff to follow our social media accounts for the county. We are working tirelessly to ensure that the information that is sent out is actionable by our residents and relevant and timely. The other portion of that, of staying informed, is certainly that we want our residents to look to local media. National media is wonderful, and they have great budgets and could do wonderful things with graphics on green screens. But our local media is going to provide the local granular data about what the conditions are here locally and what resources are available locally. That not only includes TV media, but also radio. I listed off a number of those things that require you to have connectivity. And I think most of us after Hurricane Ian probably had a little bit of trouble getting a decent cell phone signal and making phone calls, or even bringing up the websites that you normally consume your information from. And because of that, we are doubling down on our efforts to partner with radio stations because amazingly enough, the radio waves, the terrestrial radio, is a bit more resilient to disaster conditions. We lose our ability to reach internet and television and make phone calls, but very often the radio waves remain operational. So information will always be pushed out post-disaster via radio, as well as a little more analog. We also found after Ian that, if they didn't have a radio, many people were without disaster information, vital information for their recovery. Because of that, we, in the midst of Ian, printed off thousands of pieces of 11 by 8.5 sheets of paper with every bit of information we could jam on there. We updated those daily, and we put those in the hands of responders and field crews so that they could share those with the public. We're going to do that going forward, and we have in subsequent storms after Ian. But we also last year, for the first time, set up what we call info hubs. These are fixed locations at all of our libraries and rec centers in impacted areas of the county. And at those locations, our libraries and rec centers, we will place and did after Milton, the old school newspaper dispenser machines. There is no cost, there's no quarter required, but they will have those printed off pieces of paper that have the resources that are available. And when I say the information that is printed on those flyers, it's where is their mass feeding being conducted? Is there a business recovery center that is established? Where is that location? How do you apply for FEMA assistance? How do you ensure that you are, if you want to volunteer at a nonprofit agency, how do you go about doing that? Anything and everything that we have available to us in the community will be put on those flyers and made available to the public. Back to the analog way of doing it. The other side of that is the business preparedness, and of course, first and foremost is your employee preparedness. You can't expect your employees to be able to return to work if they don't have their needs met. So ensuring that they're on an individual and household basis, going through those 4 steps and preparing each and every year, dusting off their emergency plans and ensuring nothing has changed and it still works for their family. That's critically important, and I hope that you encourage that of your teams. The next piece, I'm not really going to go over too much, continuity planning. That's what our friends at the SBDC were referring to. Having your plans in place for your individual business. How do you operate if you're denied access to your storefront or your place of business on a normal day? Do you have plans for that? Can you do things virtually? Do you have alternate sources of supply? How do you engage with your insurance company to ensure that you're brought back and made whole and operating and resuming your business operations as quickly as possible? And then the last bullet is looking after your employees. I know all of you do this already, but I can't stress enough how important it is for your employees to have their needs looked after, for those things that they can't get themselves. What can you do to assist? And this is just good business. It helps you do what you need to do to get your operations back up and running as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. I focused a lot on the individuals and household preparedness, but some of the more detailed portions of that is how do they prepare their home? I always use myself as an example. I, unfortunately for my family, I'm kind of out of the equation when we are staring down at a potential storm. I go to the Emergency Operations Center and I'm set to work on things that are community-wide based, not my household. So my wife, my 2 children that are younger than the age of 12 are on their own. So they have to know when they need to put the shutters up, when to bring the furniture and the potted plants indoors, when to pack up the car and put all the supplies that they've been compiling as part of our kit into the car and get ready to go, and when they need to get on the road and evacuate, because I live in a red zone, the most likely area to be evacuated. And honestly, my family evacuates for every storm, and they moved over to my parents' home, which is outside of most evacuation scenarios. That level of planning, that level of detail is what we hope everybody engages in, and it makes part of their plan. But I can't stress enough the importance that you and your teams evacuate when they're directed to do so. There's the unfortunate example of Lee County from 2022 when we had residents on barrier islands that, despite giving evacuation notices, it's arguable whether they had sufficient time, but they only needed to go 5 to 10 miles away from those barrier islands, and their lives would have been saved because they would have been away from the most hazardous part of the storm surge. So please, please, please do not ignore evacuation orders. Seek safety, seek areas that are not being evacuated when told to do so. But the next bullet is the post-storm environment. Unfortunately, more injuries and fatalities are associated with the post-storm hazardous environment of hurricanes than are directly attributed to the wind and water of storms. This is because it's very hazardous. You have downed power lines, you have debris in roadways, you have contaminated water, you have wildlife where you probably never saw it before. You have people operating generators or power tools in the effort to recover. The situation after a storm is very dangerous. the more they can do to remain on their own and off those roadways is better. That's why we also stress the 5 to 7 days worth of supplies, because you don't want to have your teams out on the roads if they can at all avoid it, trying to get gasoline for their generators. They should do what they can to prepare for that in advance so that they can avoid hazardous conditions and stay away from what could be life-threatening situations. The next bullet is checking on neighbors. In Charlotte County, this happens organically without any prompting. Amazingly, most of our residents move from other parts of the country here to Charlotte County, and despite probably not having the size of a family and social networks that they had from where they came from, they still check on each other. They still look after each other. This is just another reminder. If you know of someone that lives in your neighborhood, maybe your next door neighbor, who needs assistance before, during, and after a storm, and if you can do so, please check on them. I think it's the right thing to do, and amazingly, it happens just naturally within our community, even though many of our residents are new to the area. And lastly is staying informed. I can't say enough. Please don't turn the blinders on during hurricane season. We get phone calls after every storm asking us why we didn't let them know there was a hurricane out there. And the only way they found out was their neighbor knocked on their door a day before landfall. We're not able to knock on every door. If you don't sign up for Alert Charlotte, if you aren't paying attention to the news, there's only so many ways you can get to stay situationally aware. So it's incumbent upon all residents. Part of the trade-off that we have all agreed upon. We live in this paradise of Southwest Florida. We are going to be visited by tropical weather, so we need to be prepared both through supplies, planning, but also just paying attention. All right, next slide. And if you don't need any more reminder of why we've remained prepared, all of the red years on that timeline are years that Charlotte County has received a presidential declaration. Now, COVID accounts for a couple of those years, but we have been declared for hurricanes for numerous years over just the last, got 9 represented here. Those happen to represent when I came to Charlotte County and left the state of Florida. I don't think I'm the bad luck charm, but maybe I am. But in any event, all those landfalling storms you see on that graphic up there are the major hurricanes, so Cat 3 and above, just since 2017 along the Gulf. The Gulf Coast we are not slowing down the amount of storms we're getting. It is vitally important that we ensure that we are preparing each and every year. So I kind of went through that at record pace, so I'll stop there for questions, but thank you for the time today to talk to everybody, and I appreciate you taking hurricane season seriously.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for all that great information. We are going to move on to our next presentation from the Florida Chamber of Commerce. Doug Izzo is going to do their introduction. Doug, take it away.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Who am I introducing?
You're introducing Kim and Stephen with the Florida Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
The Florida Department of Commerce.
All right. Well, I'm happy to introduce Stephen Wood. He brings a world of experience to the Florida Chamber of Commerce. A Navy veteran, Stephen also holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in History from the Florida State University, as well as an MBA from Jacksonville University. His Navy adventures include stints on surface ships, anti-privacy operations, including being part of a team rescuing Captain Phillips, a leisure visit to Malta, and serving as the commanding officer of Navy Reserve Professional Development Center. Native Floridian, Stephen lives in Gladstone County, with his wife and daughter. Their sons attend UNF Jacksonville. Stephen is avid theater goer, hobbyist citrus grower, and craft beer aficionado. Well, that sounds good. I only have Stephen's bio.
That's fine, Doug. I appreciate it. I'll let Kim introduce and share her bio.
Kim. I have Kim's. I thought it said somebody else. Yes, Dr. Kim. Dr. Kim Perry brings a world of experience to her role as emergency coordination officer at the Florida Chamber of Commerce, or Florida Commerce. Kim was born into an Air Force family in Northern California, then grew up to travel the world in service to the U.S. Navy. She's a retired Navy chief who holds a dual Bachelor of Science degree in environmental science and political science. In addition to her dual PhD in geophysical oceanography, wow, Kim has taught at the university level and is an enthusiastic volunteer with 4 Ocean Group. If you ever find yourself in a Kimberly Perry trivia contest, her childhood hero was Jacques Cousteau, and her favorite Navy post was Bahrain. She is a reader of sci-fi fantasy novels. She is a mother of 3, an expert seamstress, talented baker, and grateful cancer survivor. So welcome to you both, and take it away.
Thanks again, Doug. I appreciate it. Good afternoon to everybody that is online. I appreciate the invitation to come here and speak. As Doug mentioned, my name is Stephen Wood. I am the alternate emergency coordination officer, or ECO, for the Florida Department of Commerce, or Florida Commerce, if you'd rather. Kim, obviously, she's our emergency coordination officer. She is the ECO actual, and she is the Emergency Support Function 18 lead. ESF 18 is responsible for business, industry, and economic stabilization. We're here to provide an overview of ESF 18's objectives, our partners, and how we can assist cities and counties before, during, and after a disaster. Before we get started, though, if it'll work, I want to do a quick Mentimeter. It's a survey game. So if you could use your phone and click the QR code there, there's some questions that are going to pop up. And we'll see with what people's knowledge, trivia knowledge, if you will, of Florida's history of in the way of storms goes. I don't know how we can activate that until people actually hit the QR code and start. It should populate on your screen, whoever's got the PowerPoint open. And let's see if it does it. Well, that was not as thrilling as I'd hoped it would be. Well,
Yeah, it just
I
says
don't even
thanks
have a
for
list.
joining.
I'm sorry?
Mine says thanks for joining, and I don't know, it did not process.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
apologize.
Well, that's fine. I know we're pressed for time, so I won't belabor the issue. But again, I do appreciate everybody that has dialed in. I'm going to yield my remaining time to the good doctor and let her take it away to talk about ESF 18 and Florida Commerce. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I think Steve totally butchered that, so he wouldn't have to talk at all. Again, as it was said, my name is Kimberly Perry. I am the Emergency Coordination Officer for Florida Commerce. The Department of Commerce, not necessarily the Chamber, so there is a little difference there. We work on the state level for ESF 18, basically meaning that we are the State Emergency Operations Center during activation. If we could go to the next slides, please. Okay, so basically, like I was saying, for ESF 18, we are the state agency lead. Florida Commerce is, we work alongside with other agencies and industry organizations, as you can see on the slide, as well as DBPR, Department of Business and Professional Regulation, Department of Financial Services, and Department of Revenue are a few of the main ones that are in our 18 office during activation. We also are supported by state and industry associations, including Florida Public-Private Partnerships, as you can see there, Florida Restaurant and Lodging, Florida Retail Federation, Visit Florida, and of course, as you heard earlier, from the SBDC network. Next slide, please. So basically for ESF 18, and I apologize if I'm going through these rather quickly because I know we are pressed for time. We are in the State Emergency Response Team, or the CERT, in ESF 18, which is comprised of, if you don't know, response partners from other state agencies, volunteer agencies, and private organizations. In total, we're 20 ESFs led by 14 different state agencies, which allows us, as far as the business is concerned, to have 200 plus connections to the private sector through the CERT. So anything from our ag partners, from mass care, if that is something that you need, as well as resource management that we can help rebuild those businesses. Just to give you an idea of the CERT itself, DEM on the state side has approximately 200 to 250 full-time employees. The CERT is comprising the remainder of those hands-on deck staff hands-on deck staff during an activation as an event can require thousands of responders that we've definitely saw in the last season with multiple hurricanes back to back. It took everyone that we had. Next slide, please. So here are a few of the 18 objectives. As you can see there, coordinate, collaborate, and communicate. Those are our main aspects that we look for during the season, whether gray skies or blue skies. We are trying to connect basically a diverse array of stakeholders to share information and coordinate activities to accomplish shared goals and enhance the strength of Florida's economy. We totally believe that businesses play a critical role in community resilience, as well as coordination with the private sector and small business community is completely integral to effective emergency management. So our vision is to be a global leader for community preparedness and economic resilience. And to accomplish those missions, we're striving to 5 objectives, and I'll just highlight those real quick. Assisting communities in writing and updating economic recovery plans. So those continuity operation plans that was spoken of before. We also try to assist businesses in assessing, updating economic recovery plans on the other side for all community stakeholders. We inform and share networks that reach all businesses in the state to share emergency information and recovery resources. So it's not just centered on one particular area, but through the whole state. And then for the county ESF 18, so where we, Steve and I, sit in the state, many counties have an ESF 18 team as well. We work with them throughout the whole year to bring in community stakeholders and to do economic recovery training and planning efforts. And then our last, but not least, obviously, mission is to maintain and improve our communications with all of our businesses. We try to do that. And one of our main things is on our website, which is right there. You can see floridadisaster.biz to ensure it's a useful tool for all of our business partners and communities before, during, and after a disaster. It is similar to the state's website, which is floridadisaster.org. If you happen to forget that it's biz and not org, either site will take you both back to that location. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for 18, being on the state level at the EOC, we respond to all type of events. Although obviously, as we all know, Florida is known for hurricanes, and we have that down pretty well. The SEOC and the CERT team respond to any event that may occur in the state. These can be anything from natural to man-made disasters. And on this slide, you can see a few things that we've had to manage in the last year. So anything from wildfires to cyber attacks, active shooters, and even tornadoes, both north and south of Florida, as well as both coast, east and west. Today, while we're continuing to be the best in hurricane response in the country, these particular other events that are mentioned and what you see on the screen do not get ignored and stay on our radar at all times. Next slide, please. So for ESF 18, for that initial disaster response after there's an event, we become the voice of the private sector to the Emergency Operations Center on the state level. One of our goals is to provide timely updates to business about the disaster as it unfolds. We are activated as soon as the lead team does. So for senior leadership, as soon as the CERT team chief is activated, so are we. So we are there, the first ones, boots on the ground, as well as some of the other ESFs. So we're trying to, just days before that particular event happens, again, to update those businesses so they know what's going on and how it's coming to be. We do this through a massive distribution list that we have, over thousands of businesses. We hold daily conference calls between emergency response personnel, not only in the EOC, but as well as in the counties that are affected. And then in those calls, we also have our private sector partners and any businesses that would like to join us. We have a hotline into the ESF 18 particular office, and then that's manned pretty much 16 to 24 hours a day while we are active during an event. And then that will give us customer service to our businesses as they are unfolding from that particular disaster. And again, updates on our Florida disaster.biz website. We also provide customer services to businesses during and before and after that have questions about the event. We also do waivers, so anyone that wants to come in and re-enter a disaster area, that is also done through our office, so you can reach out to us for that. We also allow businesses that maybe that were not impacted, but they want to help their local community. We can help them obtain contracts for those recovery services. And then as well as it was kind of touched on before, what financial programs that Florida Commerce offers to assist in paying for any damage that may have occurred. After the storm passed, or any event has passed, our team gathers information about which businesses may be damaged, what kind of damage that they have, as well as any economic impacts to better inform our statewide disaster recovery team. So it again is our vision for all of Florida to be part of our network. So if you have access to immediate response of disaster information that we can send to you and have a way for you to in turn submit your concerns, priorities, and unmet needs to allow you both to recover and rebuild your business. Next slide, please. I think you skipped one. There we go. Fantastic. So this is going to take us right into recovery. So after the disaster, Florida Commerce again is going to be the lead state agency for economic recovery. And we actually kind of switch in long-term recovery from ESF 18 to the recovery support function 2. So we're kind of playing both games and multiple disasters at a time, like we did with Helene and Milton last year. So basically, a successful economic recovery is going to depend upon the strength of our ties between not only community organizations, our businesses, that will also bring in economic development, our chambers of commerce, housing, and emergency management. We do have a local contact in every county, usually in the emergency management office, their economic development office, chamber of commerce, or office of tourism. We work with them constantly year round to kind of just plan for the worst and hope for the best, it's been said. We're also the network that provides the on-ground information about damaged businesses, like I said earlier, which could be anything from power outages, infrastructure blockage, supply chain issues, and shelter needs in each county. Organizations that are traditionally most likely to participate in ESF 18 are county emergency management officers, again, local economic development organizations. However, a well-rounded team for us includes partners that are representative, not just from that level, but from your community's economy itself. Next slide, please. Again, this is our ESF 18 website. It is what we consider a business emergency operations center, and those are found from pretty much every state countrywide. It's basically our private sector's hub for emergency management information for businesses in Florida. It is our goal to make this a one-stop hub so that all business owners can connect there to get the resources that they need before and after any kind of event. Our website, like many of others, also contains a business continuity planning toolkit. It will give you information on those SBA loan programs, and then a detailed description of various recovery programs that Florida Commerce offers themselves. What we offer, I should say. One of the most important functions of our website is the business damage assessment survey. This survey collects information about damages to businesses. It's the information that's used to apply for SBA disaster declarations. So basically, once we get the businesses to report those out, we are giving them to not only our leadership, but the leadership in the state EOC, as well as the governor's office. That is then distributed to the Small Business Association on the federal level. And then that allows us to declare for disasters from the recovery side. It's shared with all of those partner organizations, like I mentioned before, county level as well as the state level. And for just to throw a little information in there, since we were going back for hurricanes, for Idalia, we received more than 650 unique responses to the survey. For Hurricane Milton, it was over 3,000. So it just depends on, we've increased our outreach since that time frame. We continue to hope to reach our outreach so we can kind of cover all the businesses that, in the state of Florida and help them when we can. Following a disaster, we message about the importance of businesses completing this survey so that the economic impact can be measured not only from Florida Commerce, but statewide. Next slide, please. So for the next two slides, we'll just do this one really quick. Here's some information about Florida Commerce's resource. Again, that business damage assessment, you can find it at either floridajobs.org. It's also at the floridadisaster.biz. It also is linked at the floridadisaster.org. So pretty much you can find it in anything that has to do with any kind of event in the state. It was mentioned earlier from our Florida Small Business Emergency Bridge Loan. The information that was given is correct. It is a no interest up to 1 year immediate loan. Of last year, just to give you an example, we were able, because Helene and Milton were so close together, to be able to do a 0% interest loan for 2 years. And we were able to lower the scores that you needed as far as getting the loan itself. So that was really beneficial to a lot of our businesses that needed help right away. Also, Florida Commerce has Disaster Unemployment Assistant, or DUA, and the Dislocated Workers Grant. All of this information can be found back on that floridadisaster.biz website if you need more information there. Next slide, please. So just to hit upon a couple of things that people have already said, as we know, all disaster response and recovery efforts start and end at the local level. So we, just like everyone else, encourage you to reach out to your counties. Charlotte County has some amazing emergency management people, and they're there to help you. While we're here to help you at the state as well, it's going to have to start there at the county level. And then we can work with everybody to get the information that you guys need. Our next level efforts to provide support and resources when agencies are overwhelmed, obviously. So starting with your city, then the county, state, and federal, and then that'll allow all of us to be able to reach out and help you when you need it the most. I appreciate you guys listening and inviting us here, and I will turn the time back over to you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that, Kim and Stephen. Moving on to our next speaker, Justin is going to introduce Bill.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And I have the pleasure of introducing Bill Welch, who is the Business Services Director with CareerSource Southwest Florida for over 10 years. He also has 20+ years of experience in staffing and consulting employees all throughout Southwest Florida, while also assisting businesses to grow and prosper.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank Kay and the Economic Development Office and their team for inviting CareerSource Southwest Florida to this webinar. And we are kind of like what Patrick had mentioned. We could spend an hour. I've got a very, very short deck that I will review. I'll just briefly go over some of it. Most of it you could be able to catch back when it's back on the website at the Charlotte County Economic Development website. But we're here. As the first two points there, bullet points, state and federal resources and the community resources. It's all about resources, and I want to kind of reiterate what Kimberly was saying from Florida Commerce, is that we are, essentially it ends at the local level after an event. That's where we come in, CareerSource Southwest Florida, for right after an event and along afterwards. So we coordinate with state and federal resources, including Florida Commerce, SBDC. Even Dorian had a picture there of his mobile unit at a station at a location. Generally, we are tied in with all the local resources when an event occurs, so that we're able to go ahead and really give individual resources to whether it be an employer or the employees. So as the third bullet kind of indicates, assistant with employee services, primarily when after an event, a lot of times the business is shut down, they can't open. We are there to help those individuals get that reemployment, that disaster unemployment claims immediately, with the help of, once again, other, Florida Commerce as well as other agencies. Because we're a nonprofit, we are tied in very closely knit with other organizations to assist both the employers and the employees. Customized solution, we're really going to tailor it to each individual employer because we are boots on the ground. And then once again, based on what happened during the event, humanitarian aid. So for instance, after Ian, we actually had a disaster worker grant to allow individuals to get to work for up to a year with humanitarian aid throughout the community. So what happens also is a lot of times if you have a big event that occurs, a big hurricane, where you have a lot of your employees that leaves, you may be left without having enough employees. That's where, once again, CareerSource Southwest Florida will be able to assist you with job fairs and hiring events to try to get local individuals that might have been impacted by that event to get hired on with you, even if it's on a temporary basis, and help with recruitment and job matching. We have you can go to the next slide. We have a wide range of different services. As far as work-based training grants to assist employers with their hiring needs and training needs. And these are just part of some of those there where we're reimbursing you if the individuals are eligible, a portion of their wages and or free 100% wages reimbursement to allow that individual to get some trained up with you as an employer if you're shorthanded or if you're actually involved with recovery and or disaster aid. So we do work with, once again, we have individuals that specialize in veteran services, disability navigators that work with everybody, both physical and other disabilities, to help individuals get placed with employers that have hiring needs. Once again, kind of going back, we have state and local resources that we utilize, and it goes back to the communications where we are communicating literally after an event, and maybe 2, 3, or 4 times daily with state and federal organizations to try to coordinate services, like I said, boots on the ground. So I'll just try to make it quick here. You can go to the next slide. The biggest thing would be is to really take down that Port Charlotte. We cover a 6-county area. Like I said, we're a nonprofit, and that Port Charlotte Center is where we would start to help with Charlotte County in any kind of an event. And once again, we kind of extend the recruiting network or network period with both employers and the employees. So we're big on communicating both with social media as well as on the ground with our other community partners. And, once again, it goes back to referrals. So we do tie in very tightly with Florida Commerce, SBDC, among others that were on this call. So once again, I'll try to be short and sweet because of time restraint, and any questions, let me know.
Thank you so much, Bill. I do realize that we have gone over our allotment today, but we are still going to continue if it's going to allow us to. So next up, Doug, if you could introduce Stephanie.
Absolutely. Stephanie Lucy is the program manager at the United Way Charlotte County, where she helps community members access resources, education, and opportunities to thrive. She leads family empowerment initiatives using 2-generation approach that includes literacy support and parent advisory council and intentional engagement of women to ensure families are connected and supported. Stephanie also oversees ageless engagement, keeping seniors connected and active through meaningful volunteer opportunities that reduce isolation and build community. In workforce support, she facilitates programs like United at Work, assisting employed residents recovering from disasters and financial hardships by addressing urgent needs and promoting mental health awareness. She also connects individuals to the VITA program, which provides free tax assistance to improve financial stability. Stephanie coordinates resources referrals, builds partnerships, and supports grant writing to strengthen and expand the community services. Born and raised in Charlotte County, Stephanie holds a bachelor's degree in human services and brings over 5 years of nonprofit experience, passionately empowering Alice families and fostering resilience. So welcome, Lucy. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share on behalf of United Way Charlotte County. So as a nonprofit, we've faced many of the same challenges that businesses do during hurricane season. I joined United Way in November of 2022, just after Hurricane Ian. And like many, we were responding in real time. And one big lesson was clear. We lacked an emergency plan, a clear plan with defined roles and response structure. So this has since changed, and I can share some of this with you today. So on this slide at United Way of Charlotte County, we know that a storm doesn't just damage buildings, right? It disrupts lives, especially for families who may already be walking a financial tightrope. That's why we focus on preparing year-round, not just reacting, but planning ahead. This opening slide does outline United Way's role, what we do before, during, and after a storm. Before the storm, we prepare in blue skies for gray skies, building plans, partnerships, and communication lines before a storm is even on the radar. Reviewing and adjusting our emergency plan regularly helps us to stay ready and resilient. Also tapping into local efforts like emergency management, COAD, and other United Ways, we keep our team connected and supported. During the storm, when the storm approaches, United Way activates our disaster plan in stages at 72, 48, and 24 hours. That plan guides us with gathering resources, when we do that, when we begin sharing emergency management messaging, when we secure our office, and even when we send our staff home to prepare their own families. A clear plan helps us to stay calm, focused, and ready to respond. After the storm, once it's safe, we focus on mobilizing, informing, and supporting. United Way of Charlotte County shares critical recovery information like shelter locations, food distribution sites, assists with coordinating volunteers, and launches our disaster recovery fund, which helps employed households through case management and financial assistance. Next slide, please. This visual outlines our post-storm key areas: communication, supplies, donations, recovery efforts, community partners, and additional resources. It's just a visual tool that we didn't have before Hurricane Ian, but one that we've since developed to help guide both our internal team and also the community during disaster responses. We do keep this updated with accurate links for businesses, like COAD is on there, our disaster relief fund, and surrounding other United Ways. Next slide. For those who may not be familiar with United Way of Charlotte County, here's a quick look at our major focus areas. I'll just touch on a couple of them. Communication, navigation, we connect people to the help that they need. So volunteer tax income assistance program, VITA, again, referrals and resource navigation, and then community partnerships, just being active in our community. United at Work is a program designed for our local workforce. So we work directly with employers to help them support their teams, whether that's connecting employees to mental health resources or helping them recover after disaster. That entails workforce resources, the mental health awareness initiatives, the Get Help piece, which is that financial assistance, and then also disaster recovery after a storm. We have also families, which we have literacy initiatives, our Parent Advisory Council, which is new this year, and then also just engaging opportunities for women to get involved in the community and with each other. And then also seniors. So within seniors, we have volunteer mobilization opportunities, digital navigation classes through our partnerships with Goodwill. And then also we're really working to get seniors out of their homes, to be more social in the community. So working on that senior engagement piece. Next slide. I want to leave you with 2 helpful flyers designed specifically for Charlotte County businesses. The one on the left is our United at Work Get Help flyer. This is a confidential way for your Charlotte County workforce to request support when facing a financial crisis. So it links to a short survey that goes directly to our case manager, who will follow up with that person. If you have employees that are still struggling after Hurricanes Helene and Milton, please encourage them to apply. We are still providing disaster support. The other flyer is our VITA flyer, so our Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. It does run year-round. So we are offering support with back taxes, amended returns, and even complicated hurricane returns if someone has those. So it's a great resource to share with your employees at any time of year. So that's all I have. Thank you again for the opportunity to share how United Way of Charlotte County supports both preparedness and recovery, not just for individuals, but for businesses and their teams as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. We really appreciate that. And back to Kay.
Okay, thank you everyone for hanging in there with us. Once again, we apologize for going over. Wanted to open it up to anybody that has any questions for any of our guests. I don't see any on the screen. Do you, Christy? Do you have anything?
I am checking the chat right now. I do not see any questions in the chat at this time.
Okay, well, thank you. I think everybody's been very, very thorough. We appreciate you joining us for the Hurricane Preparedness webinar for businesses this year. We are incredibly grateful for our guest speakers, Patrick from the EOC, Dorian from the SBDC, Kimberly Perry and Stephen Wood from Florida Commerce, Bill Welsh from the CareerSource, and Stephanie Lucy from the United Way. Great programs they all offer. Also wanted to mention to you, the Economic Development Office does a proactive outreach after every storm. So if you guys get emails or phone calls from the Economic Development Office. We can't reach everybody, but those who we do reach and we have to leave a message, please be kind. A lot of our workers are temporary workers, and they have been displaced from their jobs because their businesses that they work for have closed, and they have gone through the stress of maybe losing their home or losing their job. And they're just trying to reach out to offer any programs or services that the community offers or the state offers or the federal government offers. So please be aware of that. And also I wanted to give a special thank you to our partners, the Doug Izzo from the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce, Justin Brand, the Punta Gorda Chamber of Commerce, and of course, Bob White with the Charlotte County Chamber of Commerce for your continued support and leadership, bringing our businesses and community together. I also want to recognize our team again, Christy Sisler and Maria Vastola, for the outstanding work organizing this program today. They've helped make this a seamless and informative, rich session. As a reminder, the full recording of today's webinar will, along with the key resources, will be posted on our website, cleared4takeoff.com. Please feel free to revisit the materials or share them with your teams and colleagues. Our Economic Development Office is always here to support you before, during, and after any storm. And if you have any follow-up questions or need assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. Stay safe, stay prepared, and thank you again for investing your time today with us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.